He gets stabbed by a psychopath. But instead of dying for good, he reincarnates a goblin in a new world with insanely overpowered abilities. The story begins with our guy getting shanked multiple times by a sociopathic schoolgirl. She kills him instantly, but the very next moment, he opens his eyes in a completely different world, where an old, ugly goblin is staring at him. The goblin names him Gabiro and immediately forces him to eat a massive insect before he passes out. When he wakes up, it finally hits him. He's been reincarnated as a goblin baby, and he is not happy about it. But to his surprise, goblins grow absurdly fast. By day 3, he's already able to stand and grunt. He practices some MMA moves, flexing like a mini martial artist, then wanders toward the cave entrance while the other goblin kids watch in confusion. The next morning, the old goblin arrives with a tray full of insects and announces this will be the last time he feeds them. From now on, they'd better hunt their own food. Gabiro takes advantage and eats as much as possible to grow faster, while the others eat whatever they're given. Soon, he finally steps outside the cave for the first time and sees a beautiful yet dangerous world. The landscape looks familiar at first glance, but the animals, insects, and birds are clearly nothing like Earth. Another goblin emerges from the cave and introduces himself as Gabichi. Gabiro decides to befriend him, mainly because Gabichi is the biggest goblin kid in the group. They quickly become friends and begin hunting together. Gabiro comes up with a plan. Gabichi chases a horny rabbit, yes, that's what it's actually called, into the open, while Gabiro hides in a tree and ambushes it with a stick. The plan works, and Gabiro proudly celebrates, right up until he sees Gabichi about to eat the whole rabbit himself. So Gabiro teaches him a valuable lesson by repeatedly slapping him in the face with the stick until he's unconscious. He then snaps off the rabbit's horn, realizing it's extremely hard and could be used as a proper weapon. The next day, they repeat the same strategy, but this time, Gabiro uses the horn to one-shot the rabbit, completely impressing Gabichi. Once again, he removes the horn and sits to celebrate. That's when a glowing screen flashes in front of Gabiro's eyes, notifying him that he's unlocked a new ability. He puts the pieces together. In his previous life, he had a rare power, allowing him to absorb traits and abilities from anything he ate, and somehow, that ability transferred into this new world. Using his new speed boost, he starts hunting rabbits alone with ease and shares the meat, while imagining how powerful he could become by absorbing the abilities of other monsters. The next day, a female goblin named Mai approaches them and starts flirting with Gabiro, complimenting him for being able to hunt horny rabbits, since everyone else who tries ends up dying. Impaled by them, Gabiro instantly becomes a simp and invites her to join his squad. She happily tackles him in a hug. Meanwhile, when Gabichi awkwardly asks what she thinks of him, she immediately replies, "You're mid." Unfortunately, Rain forces them to postpone the hunt. With extra time on his hands, Gabiro explores deeper into the cave and discovers a chilling sight. Human women tied up and used to produce goblin offspring. He closes the door silently, unsure how he feels, and goes back to crafting a weapon out of obsidian. The old goblin approaches and asks why he's so motivated. Then he tells Gabiro that if he keeps working this hard, he'll level up fast. Gabiro asks what he means, and the goblin tells him to tap his forehead twice. He does, and a status screen appears. Gabiro is already level 86, insanely high for his age. The old goblin explains that once a goblin reaches level 100, they can evolve, like a Pokemon, into a stronger and more advanced form known as a hobgoblin. Only a handful of goblins have ever reached that stage. Gabiro tries his best to become a hobgoblin. The next morning, he goes out with Mai and Gabichi to hunt again. Mai uses her makeshift catapult to launch rocks at animals from a distance, while Gabiro takes advantage of the distraction to strike snakes and stab them in the head. Meanwhile, Gabichi covers him and kills another snake with his club. Mai keeps acting like range support. Gabiro becomes the swift attacker, and Gabichi plays the tank, blocking the enemy and finishing them with heavy brute force. After the hunt, they all sit down to eat. Mai dramatically complains about how she's only been eating fruits until now, which is honestly depressing. Before Gabiro can respond, the white screen appears again, telling him he's now unlocked venom resistance along with a few new abilities. Gabichi tries to eat the snake head, but Gabiro stops him and tells him only he can eat it now because of the venom resistance. Then he casually eats it himself. Days go by smoothly, until one day they get ambushed inside a bat cave. Gabiro reveals another new ability and freezes the bats in time before finishing them off with help from his party. That night, while he's sleeping, a group of jealous goblins try to assassinate him, but Gabiro senses them and beats them senseless. One dies from the poison on his weapon, and Mai chokes another one nearly to death. The next morning, the trio continues hunting. They spot an orc, and Mai shoots it straight in the eye. Gabichi charges in, but gets shoved back. Mai immediately fires another rock, breaking the orc's fingers, and Gabichi follows up by snapping the monster's leg. Finally, Gabichi lands the killing blow. After eating, Gabiro tells them they should bring leftover meat back to the cave and distribute it among everyone. They do exactly that. The next morning, Gabiro wakes up and realizes he has finally evolved into a hobgoblin. He looks at Gabichi and sees he has evolved too. Mai and the old goblin both openly drool over their new forms. Gabiro and Gabichi go outside to test their strength and start sparring. Gabichi fights with everything he has, but Gabiro outsmarts and overpowers him, knocking him down. He helps Gabichi back up and tells him that when it comes to raw strength, Gabichi is still stronger, something that makes him genuinely happy. Suddenly, Gabiro senses something. A pack of wild wolves has entered the jungle, slaughtering everything in their path. They even take down a full-grown orc and rip it apart while the trio watches. Gabiro quickly forms a strategy. Mai shoots the wolf pack leader in the neck with a poison projectile. With the leader weakened, the pack becomes unstable. Gabiro and Gabichi take full advantage and completely annihilate every wolf they can reach. The leader eventually collapses and dies from the poison. Gabiro brings all the meat back to the cave and gives it to the weaker goblins, earning their respect. He tells them he will teach them how to hunt and survive. His plan works. Soon, every goblin begins to follow him. Whether he likes it or not, he becomes the leader of the cave and waits for whatever comes next. Just when things finally seem peaceful, tragedy strikes. One morning, Gabiro wakes up to find most of the goblin women dead from drinking poison water. He wakes the elder goblin, and they mourn together. More days pass, and Gabiro continues training the remaining young goblins so they can grow strong and learn what is safe to eat. While training them, he himself grows stronger by consuming various monsters. One day, he notices a group of goblins approaching menacingly. Without hesitation, he draws both swords, ready for a fight. But the elder stops him and explains that these goblins are an expedition team returning home. They are the parents of Gabiro's generation. They've brought back supplies, rare materials, and unfortunately, several bound and gagged human females. The old goblin is thrilled. More breeding stock means more goblins. Gabiro finds the tradition disgusting. He walks straight to the leader of the hobgoblins, the biggest and strongest one, and demands all the human captives. The leader grabs Gabiro by the collar and threatens to kill him if he keeps talking. Gabiro doesn't react. The elder looks nervous. He knows how dangerous Gabiro has become. Tension rises. The young goblins pick up weapons and stand behind Gabiro. The older goblins prepare to defend their leader. Just before chaos breaks loose, two goblin Two women step forward from the group and introduce themselves as Sato and Ansei, both mages. They move between everyone and calm the situation before suggesting a solution. The leader should be decided by a fair duel between the strongest of the older generation and the strongest of the new generation. Whoever wins will rule the tribe. The large hobgoblin immediately accepts, confident in his strength, and loudly threatens to kill Gabiro. Gabiro shows no reaction. The duel, however, ends before it truly begins. The older hobgoblin lies on the ground within seconds, completely tied up in layers of silk and bleeding. Everyone stares in shock, stunned that such a young goblin defeated a seasoned veteran without even taking a scratch. Gabiro looks pleased, as this gave him a chance to test his new spider silk ability, which he gained after eating a demonic spider. The elder, wide-eyed, demands to know how Gabiro did it, but Gabiro ignores the question. He turns to the rest of the tribe and declares that he is now the leader. Anyone who disagrees is welcome to leave. Sato watches him with surprise and admiration, realizing they had no idea such a strong goblin existed while they were away. Gabiro escorts the captured human girls to the storeroom. He removes their gags and reassures them no one in the tribe will harm them now. He promises they will be protected and eventually return to their homes. A red-haired girl steps forward and asks how they can repay him. Gabiro simply tells them he has his own reasons, but in exchange, he wants them to teach him everything they know about humans and the world. The girls explain they had been part of a hunting group with several men before being ambushed by goblins. The men were killed, and the survivors taken captive. Gabiro tells them to rest and leaves. The next morning, he returns with food and is surprised when the girls greet him warmly. As they eat, he learns about human professions. One girl, a blacksmith, the twins are cooks, the green-haired girl is an alchemist, and the red-haired girl is a trained warrior from then on. Instead of hunting, Gabiro trains both the younger goblins and the veterans together. He quickly discovers the veterans are lazy and weak. Whenever they argue, Gabiro settles it with a punch to the face, and they immediately fall in line. A heavy rainstorm hits the next morning, so training stops. Instead, Gabiro and Gabichi engage in a full power sparring match indoors. Their strength shocks everyone present. Later, that night, while Gabiro sleeps, he senses danger. The former leader and several veterans have broken the rules and are sneaking toward the human's chamber with harmful intentions. Gabiro arrives moments before disaster and slices one veteran down. He brutally beats the rest and ties them up. The former leader still tries to talk back. Gabiro responds with a swift kick to the face. Gabiro turns to the terrified girls and apologizes. The red-haired girl suddenly breaks down in tears and hugs him tightly out of relief. Furious, Gabiro orders Gabichi to drag the offenders outside. Mai wakes up the tribe and brings everyone to witness punishment under the cold moonlight. Gabiro hangs the former leader upside down and mercilessly beats him until the goblin loses consciousness from blood loss. Then Gabiro looks at everyone with a calm smile and states, "Anyone who breaks the rules will share the same fate." By morning, the former leader is dead. Days later, the group goes hunting. They attack a monster horse, but their arrows snap against its tough scales. The beast charges, but Gabiro traps it with spider silk, and with Gabichi's help, lands the killing blow. As they feast, Gabiro receives another wave of new skills, one of them being triple attack, which could be extremely useful. That night, the red-haired girl slips into his bed and sleeps beside him. By morning, Mai is also beside him. Their training continues. Gabiro assigns leadership roles. Gabichi, Sato, and Ansai manage different divisions, giving the tribe structure and discipline. One afternoon, Gabiro walks through the forest alone. He spots another monster horse near a pond and decides to test his newly gained magic. He forms a spear and launches it. The spell is incredibly powerful, decapitating the beast instantly. Curious, he wanders deeper into the forest. Eventually, he comes across the shredded corpse of an armored horse. Suddenly, He suddenly remembers the old warnings from childhood about a red bear said to live deep in this part of the forest. Right then, the monstrous bear appears behind him. Instead of running, Gabiro prepares to fight. He forms his magic spear and launches it, but the bear blocks it by sacrificing its own arm. Then it swings its remaining claw, forcing Gabiro to dodge repeatedly. He attempts to end the fight by going for the bear's head, but its hide is incredibly tough, and Gabiro is pushed back. He quickly traps the bear in spider silk, but the monster tears through it instantly and fires a massive fireball, destroying the entire area. Gabiro hides behind a tree and heals his injuries. The bear begins to turn away, assuming the fight is over, but Gabiro steps out again and charges. The bear sends another blast of flames, but this time Gabiro shields himself with magic and runs straight through fire. He strikes the bear in the throat with his spear. For a moment, he thinks the battle is over, but the bear slams him away with its remaining paw. Gabiro barely reacts in time, forming a shield on his back before impact, but he still takes heavy damage. He forces himself up, fully aware that a single mistake will kill him. He sprints toward the bear, dodges its attacks, leaps into the air, and brings down a powerful blow on its skull. The bear becomes enraged, but Gabiro charges again and finally delivers the fatal strike. The next morning, Gabiro wakes beside the dead bear and realizes one of its claws is still lodged in his abdomen. He pulls it out and immediately starts eating the beast's flesh, gaining an enormous amount of new skills before blacking out again. The following morning, he wakes exhausted and starving. He grabs the bear's severed head and eats it, gaining multiple new abilities. Afterward, he decides to skin the beast for its valuable pelt. When he reaches for his knife, he notices something strange. The knife looks much smaller than before. That's when he realizes he has evolved again, this time into a massive, powerful ogre. He returns to his village, but everyone panics when they see a giant monster approaching. They scramble to arm themselves until Goblin recognizes him and rushes forward. She kicks him in the leg with full force, only to hurt herself instead. She immediately begins scolding him for disappearing without warning, then notices his missing arm. Gabiro calmly explains that he fought and killed the red bear of the northern woods. The entire village is shocked, especially the elder, who quietly reflects on how Gabiro was born only a month ago yet has already defeated one of the region's strongest monsters and evolved into an ogre. Gabiro then heads to the storeroom to check on the human girls. They're terrified at first, but quickly recognize him and relax. The blacksmith takes Gabiro's damaged axe and promises to repair it. She also reveals she crafted a new knife from a spirit stone and tells him to test it out. Gabiro thanks her, causing both Gob and the red-haired girl to become jealous. Next, the cooking twins complain that they don't have enough help to prepare food. Gabiro promises to assign more goblins as assistants. He then checks on the alchemist, who proudly shows him a vial filled with an ominous green liquid. Gabiro immediately recognizes it as poison and demands to know what she was planning. She admits she originally intended to poison the tribe, but after meeting Gabiro, she changed her mind. She assures him she no longer intends to harm anyone, though. Next day, Gabiro tries his usual sparring routine, but quickly realizes he has become far too strong. His training partners nearly died from even light hits. He apologizes and heals them. Gabichi watches silently, clearly troubled, then walks out of the cave without a word. Days pass peacefully. The tribe hunts, mines, trains, and works together. Gabiro relaxes and learns simple tasks, like stitching. While sitting beside Sei, who is reading, Gabiro asks whether Gabichi will be okay. Sei replies that it depends entirely on how Gabichi handles the reality that Gabiro has surpassed him by an overwhelming margin and that they may never be able to spar evenly again. One quiet morning, the minor goat rushes toward Gabiro carrying a small nymph in her arms. The nymph is severely injured. Gabiro immediately begins healing her with extra medicine from the alchemist and a full night of rest. The nymph wakes up the next morning feeling much better. She expresses heartfelt gratitude, shocked that strangers helped her. She explains that the gem embedded in her forehead is incredibly valuable and can be sold for 1,000,000 gold coins. Because of that gem, a group of greedy humans ambushed and attacked her. The nymph explains to Gabiro that the injuries she suffered are too severe, and she won't survive much longer. Before she dies, she begs Gabiro for one last favor: help her scare those humans away. She then reveals that she belongs to an old magician who collected countless legendary weapons and rare magical items inside a hidden cave. The same cave the humans are now trying to loot. In return for helping her, she promises Gabiro and his people every piece of treasure inside. Gabiro hears the offer, thinks for 2 seconds, and decides, yeah, that's a great deal. So he gathers a few goblins and follows the nymph deep into the bright golden caves. He's admiring the scenery when he suddenly hears voices. Humans. A party of human adventurers appears, ready to destroy and plunder the cave. They take one look at Gabiro and assume he's just a dumb NPC ogre blocking the entrance. One assassin attempts a sneak attack, but Gabiro casually intercepts it like swatting a fly. Trying to avoid unnecessary bloodshed, Gabiro steps forward and announces that the cave belongs to someone else and the adventurers must leave. If they try to loot or kill, they'll deal with him first. The humans are stunned. An ogre speaking full sentences is not something they expected, but instead of retreating, they charge straight at him. Gabiro easily dodges their sloppy attacks while analyzing their equipment. Their levels are decent and their gear is expensive, but their skills, absolute trash. One mage fires a powerful lightning spell straight into his face. The adventurers cheer, thinking he's dead. But when the smoke clears, Gabiro is still standing without a single mark, just looking very, very annoyed. The adventurers panic as Gabiro uses earth magic to immobilize them. His teammates join in, taking down the entire party effortlessly. Once they're defeated, Gabiro pulls out a knife and loots them like a British burglar before letting them walk away alive. After dealing with them, they reach the deepest chamber of the cave where they find the corpse of the old magician. The nymph thanks them for protecting the place and gives permission to take everything. Then she disappears, leaving behind the gemstone from her forehead, which Gabiro eats for extra skills. They pack up all the weapons and artifacts and return home. But Gabiro takes time to respectfully cremate the magician's body. When the flames die down, a mysterious glove appears on the chair. Curious, Gabiro puts it on, and instantly wires and spikes shoot into his flesh, fusing the glove to his body and forming a new permanent arm. He returns to the others, proudly showing off his new weaponized arm, which leads into a well-deserved celebration of food and booze. The next morning, he evaluates the loot with the blacksmith and learns that most of the items they recovered are legendary grade. He distributes the gear among the clan while keeping a red spear and a bracelet for himself. Days pass peacefully as the goblins hunt, train, and grow stronger. Gabiro tests his new weapons deep in the forest, defeating a golden spider and a rare deer, eating them both to gain even more abilities. Later, while washing up at a river, he's surrounded by lizardmen, but he wipes them out without breaking a sweat. A wild boar charges him afterward, and that ends badly for the boar. The next morning, Gabiro awakens with a brand new skill, danger detection. Almost immediately, he senses unknown figures approaching the cave. He walks out to investigate and finds a group of high elves, proud, arrogant, and clearly full of themselves. They scold Gabiro for making the high elves wait, and he instantly realizes they are going to be unbelievably annoying. Their leader brags that the elves are preparing for war against the humans and demand support from the goblins. He talks like he's blessing them just by standing there and even says the goblins should be honored to fight beside elves. He offers them food, enough to feed everyone for a month, and assumes the deal is already accepted, but Gabiro rejects him immediately, saying he couldn't care less about their war and calling the elf a narcissistic fool who doesn't even know how to ask properly. The leader turns red with rage and reaches for his sword, when Gabiro releases, and that's where the chaos begins. An owl appears so terrifying that every elf freezes on the spot. Overcome with fear, the leader collapses, while Gabiro lifts him by the neck and instructs him to inform the archers that they are permitted to lower their weapons. Suddenly, an arrow is fired at him. Gabiro catches it between his teeth and crushes it, horrifying everyone present. The leader immediately orders all elves to lower their bows. Gabiro draws his crimson lance and calmly rejects their offer, stating that he has no interest in dealing with arrogant individuals like them. He slams the lance into the ground, causing countless astral projections of the weapon to appear. Each spear tip hovers dangerously close to the elves' necks. He warns them that he could kill them all instantly and advises them to adjust their attitude and never return. Terrified, the elves flee back into the forest. Gabiro watches them leave, certain this will not be the last encounter. The following morning, he enters the forest to hunt rare slimes and consumes their cores. This grants him new abilities, which he tests by cutting his finger and releasing a few drops of blood. The blood transforms into a miniature version of himself, and Gabiro realizes he can see through its eyes. Later, he spends time knitting clothing for the girls in his group, embedding small droplets of his blood into the fabric. These serve as a tracking and communication system in case any of them encounter danger. The next morning, one of his blood-linked replicas detects a group of heavily armed elves approaching the cave. Realizing his prediction was correct, Gabiro decides it is time to deal with them permanently. The elf leader steps forward with his sword drawn, demanding the goblins come out. Instead, Gabiro emerges and releases a powerful roar, paralyzing every elf with fear. He then uses his web-based abilities to trap them all in spider silk, including the leader. Once restrained, they are brought into the cave. Gabiro questions the leader's return, only to receive arrogant demands for revenge. The female elves explain that they tried to stop him, but he refused to listen. Gabiro formulates a plan. He tells the elves that their leader should be considered already dead, but the rest have a chance to survive only if they win in a sparring match against the goblins. Those who lose will be killed. The following day, the mock battle takes place. Out of 23 elves, 6 lose and are executed, something Gabiro had planned from the beginning. As all 6 were male, the surviving female elves protest, claiming they earned freedom by winning. But Gabiro refuses. He states that he makes the rules and they will obey as prisoners. He then brings out the leader and kills him instantly with a single brutal strike. The next day, Gabichi slays a massive beast and reaches level 100, triggering his evolution. His new form makes him look bulked up and powerful, and although Gabiro is pleased to see another strong ally, Gabichi admits he was afraid of being left behind. Now, he believes he can finally spar with Gabiro again. The two step outside and begin their match. The goblins watch in amazement as the two warriors clash with immense strength. Although Gabichi now possesses superior raw power, Gabiro's refined experience and technique allow him to defeat him. The next morning, Go leads Gabiro deeper into the cave, where he discovers that even Sei has undergone her own evolution. She explains that she now feels immense mana flowing through her body and wants to test it outside. Gabiro follows her, and she unleashes a flame spell so powerful that it nearly obliterates the forest. She casually mentions she still has enough mana to cast the spell 10 more times. Impressed, Gabiro provides her with upgraded robes. Her evolution inspires the other goblins, who begin training twice as hard. However, not everything progresses smoothly. One day, while returning from a hunt with Gabichi, Gabiro sees the veteran hobgoblins attempting to leave the village. They explain that everyone has surpassed them and that they no longer have a role or purpose. They offer Gabiro permission to kill them if he wishes. Instead, he tells them their departure is their own choice and gives them a mithril knife that never dulls as a farewell gift. The next day, while walking through the forest, Gabiro spots an orc dragging a dead human. He swiftly eliminates the orc, but the damage is already done. The human corpse is already beyond saving, so Gabiro decides not to let it go to waste. He consumes it and gains a new ability called Beast Hammer. The next morning, he creates several earrings with tiny droplets of his blood sealed inside gemstones. He distributes them to the girls and confirms that the earrings work. He can now communicate with them from anywhere and issue commands remotely. Later that day, Gob accidentally knocks out a unicorn, giving Gabiro an opportunity to test his beast-taming abilities. Surprisingly, the skill works, and the unicorn becomes their first tamed creature. The following day, they successfully tame a massive bear for hunting and a giant black wolf tasked with guarding the human girls. However, the girls soon prove they no longer need protection. The red-haired girl, in particular, has grown significantly stronger and kills 3 kobolds on her own, something impossible for her just days earlier. Later, she senses a flaming deer nearby and pursues it through the forest, eventually killing it with impressive precision. Gabiro realizes she has been eating large amounts of monster meat, likely the cause of her accelerated growth. The next morning, he wakes with a sudden awareness of a massive kobold horde approaching. At first, he assumes it's an attack, but soon notices the kobolds are fleeing from something. The goblins prepare for battle, but Gabiro orders them to stand down and let the creatures pass. Moments later, the threat reveals itself, a vast skeleton army. Gob attempts to shoot them with arrows, but it has no effect. While Gabichi and others engage the skeletons, Sato manages to destroy one with the blunt force of her sheath, revealing a weakness: these undead cannot be harmed by blades, only by blunt physical attacks. Gabiro destroys several skeletons barehanded and instructs the others to drop their weapons and rely on martial arts. The goblins begin using grapples, strikes, and takedowns, while Gabiro leaps across the battlefield with his lance, demolishing everything in his path. Within seconds, he reaches the core skeleton. The commander attempts resistance, but Gabiro smashes it with his fists and consumes the skull, gaining new skills. After the battle, the kobolds bow before the goblins, acknowledging them as their saviors. They beg to join the goblin clan, offering themselves as slaves or prisoners. After some thought, Gabiro accepts. With more mouths to feed and greater attention drawn to the area, he grows increasingly concerned about an inevitable human invasion. The next day, Gabiro and Gabichi go hunting for the first time in a while. While in the forest, they spot human soldiers sprinting in a strange formation, almost like a parody of a ninja run. Gabiro immediately abandons the hunt, tailing them with Gabichi. They position themselves close enough to listen, and by using a thread-based sensory technique, the humans reveal their plan. They intend to kidnap the daughter of the elf clan leader on her return from a festival. Soon after, the caravan appears. The princess is carried in a palanquin. Before they fully approach the forest clearing, the humans launch a storm of arrows, killing nearly all of the elf guards. Gabichi attempts to intervene, but Gabiro stops him, allowing events to unfold. Assassins finish off the remaining guards, then knock out the princess with chloroform. This is the moment Gabiro has been waiting for. He traps the attackers inside an earth wall, retrieves the unconscious elf princess, and orders Gabichi to carry the captives back. Upon returning to the cave, Gabiro interrogates the humans and learns the invasion will begin in 20 days. After extracting the information, he consumes them to obtain their abilities. Soon after, the princess awakens and panics at the sight of him. Gabiro notices her wings prove she is unlike ordinary elves, but she is terrified and wants answers. He explains what happened, but she becomes furious when she learns he allowed her guards to die. She strikes him repeatedly until he casually flicks her aside. He states that the feud between humans and elves is not his concern. He also reveals that the humans received their information from a traitor within her own people. The princess breaks down in tears. Gabiro sighs, tells her to stop crying, and suggests she focus on fixing the betrayal within her clan. Her crying intensifies, but Gabiro ultimately allows her to stay for the night. Meanwhile, The old perverted goblin catches her scent and immediately develops an interest in her. Gabiro shuts him down with one warning: he is not to touch the girl. Gabiro decides to escort the elf princess back to her home. Along the way, he asks her about her wings and learns that only high elves like her possess them, most of the time. The wings are hidden within their bodies. She explains that she normally keeps them concealed, but in her shock during the attack, she couldn't control herself. They walk for 3 hours before reaching the elf village, only to be met with a hostile welcome. Around 25 elves perch in the trees, mithril tip arrows aimed at them. Gabiro assesses the situation and thinks that enduring a dozen of those arrows would be no problem for ogres like them. However, the princess intervenes, explaining that Gabiro saved her life, and the elves reluctantly lower their weapons, allowing him to enter the village. They arrive at the house of the elf clan leader, who thanks Gabiro for saving his daughter. Gabiro clarifies that he did it not out of kindness. Curious about the reward the leader might give, Gabiro watches as a servant retrieves an artifact, an ancient bow named Fail Not, a class-level artifact. The princess is stunned by the generosity, but her father explains that her life is worth more than any item. Impressed, Gabiro gives him intelligence about the movement of human troops in return. The elf leader stretches out his hand to form an alliance, and Gabiro accepts. In addition to the artifact, he receives valuable mithril items and magical stones. The villagers also gift them elven liquor and medicinal supplies, immediately winning Gabiro's favor. He tells the elf leader that if he ever needs help, he should contact him without hesitation. Back at the cave, Gabiro and his friends test the elven liquor and are impressed. The next morning, Gabiro wakes to find that Mai has evolved into a higher species along with 8 new hobgoblins. Mai now has powerful curves and the blessing of the god of ice, giving her control over vast amounts of water and ice, as well as special eyes capable of causing enemies to turn against each other. Gabiro notes something about her appearance that makes him wary. Gob has evolved into the Half-Earth Lord, gaining keen insight into the structure and weaknesses of rocks and the ability to manipulate earth with her fists. Sato evolves into a half-blood lord, able to manipulate blood as a weapon. Gabiro notices that all his evolved friends bear tattoos similar to his own, though in varying shapes and placements, and he wants to learn more about them, anticipating human troop movements. Gabiro prepares for potential battles. He distributes communication devices to the kobolds and elves, though the elves are hesitant, as adorning their ears is considered taboo. Undeterred, Gabiro patiently works to break their pride behind closed doors. The next day, training begins. Gabiro instructs the kobolds and elves in his unique combat style and conducts practical combat exercises. He summons a rare, armored skeleton using his lesser skeleton plant ability. Despite wielding high-grade mithril weapons, the elves fail to defeat it, but they are proud of their progress, and Gabiro is pleased. He continues training them, summoning different types of zombies and skeletons, discovering that while he cannot consume them, all undead are weak to sunlight and burn instantly when exposed. Gabiro remains concerned about the kobolds' survival, as they are the weakest in the group. He seals potential infiltration points with Gobi's help. He then sends the kobolds on a hunting exercise, instructing them to capture black wolves alive. They succeed, capturing 20 wolves to serve as obedient pets. On their return, they encounter a wild boar monster with incredibly tough skin. Gob rushes forward and obliterates it with a single punch, blood splattering everywhere. Back at the cave, Gabiro notices that the axe damage during the fight with the red bear has been repaired with mithril and spirit stones. He is impressed by the human blacksmith's craftsmanship. That same day, Gabichi approaches Gabiro, nervous and embarrassed. In private, he confesses that he has always had feelings for Gob, and since her evolution, he can no longer hide them. Unsure how to confess, he turns to Gabiro for guidance. Gabiro advises him to express his feelings to Gob that very night. Gabiro advises Gabichi that the sooner he gets rejected, the sooner he can forget the girl. That night, Gabichi calls Gob to meet him in private and confesses his feelings. She is moved to tears and gladly accepts to spend the rest of her life with him. The next day, Gabiro spars with Gabichi, noticing that the red ogre has grown much stronger after spending the night with his girlfriend and has finally come of age. Gabiro and Mai then go hunting and encounter new bug-type monsters. After the hunt, Gabiro gains several new skills, including one called exoskeleton. He tests it and finds his body suddenly covered in dark brown scale armor, tough, impact-absorbing, and self-repairing. However, the armor is too fancy for his taste, so he disables it, only to discover that his clothes were used up to form the exoskeleton, leaving him momentarily exposed. The next day, as it begins to rain, Gabiro focuses on crafting new items. The red-headed human approaches him and asks to spar. She has been steadily growing stronger, and, after sparring until she tires, Gabiro visits the blacksmith's shop. There, he finds the elven smiths working with mithril and spirit stones to create a rapid-fire crossbow. Impressed by its performance, Gabiro commissions them to mass-produce it. Afterward, Gabiro helps the twin sisters in the kitchen, teaching them recipes from his homeland, and then heads to the alchemist to work on magical items. The alchemist has obtained a new class, item, creator, and uses it to craft a weapon from the bones of an armored skeleton. As a reward, she asks Gabiro to fill her up, but the rest of his harem catches them in the act, keeping him busy for the rest of the night. The following day, a group of elf soldiers arrives at the cave, claiming they were sent by the elf leader. Gabiro welcomes them and learns that humans have attacked the forest, and the elves are not strong enough to handle it. They request his help, promising generous rewards if he annihilates the human invaders. Gabiro accepts and provides a bracelet to communicate with their chief. Gabiro summons everyone and declares the formation of a mercenary group, Parabellum, instructing them to prepare for war. The next day, they begin their assaults, with Gabiro leading 73 of his most trusted clan members and their familiars. He specifically chooses the evening, knowing humans are more weary and careless, making them easier prey for ambushes. After navigating the jungle, they reach a massive magical barrier erected by human mages to prevent monsters from entering. Gabiro orders his group to take positions while he steps forward and fires a single, insanely powerful shot from his crossbow, shattering the barrier and sowing chaos. Meanwhile, the other goblins use their magic to erect rock walls, trapping the humans. Sei and Mai unleash barrages of offensive magic, demolishing guards inside, while Gabiro summons skeletons and uses his crossbow as an automatic turret to wreak havoc on the enemy soldiers. Despite these successes, the humans fight back with magic, and a female knight begins cutting down every enemy in her path with exceptional skill. Gabiro quickly identifies her as the commander. To assert dominance, he lets out a deafening roar, drawing her attention and establishing himself as the primary threat. The commander realizes that defeating Gabiro is essential if they hope to stop the skeletons and lead her troops effectively. She receives a magical boost from her mage ally, enabling her to slash through the minions and charge straight at Gabiro. Gabiro assesses her abilities and acknowledges her as a worthy opponent, noting her situational awareness and direct approach to attack his heart, but her efforts are futile. A mere touch from Gabiro's axe blasts her back, where she is caught by an ally. Impressed by her skill, Gabiro declares that he will take her alive. Believing she will make a worthy sparring partner, the commander's pride is wounded. She confronts Gabiro, declaring that he will pay for his insolence and challenges him to one-on-one combat, promising to follow his orders if she wins. Gabiro accepts without hesitation, preparing to face her in a duel that promises to test both of their limits. Gabiro used his magic earrings to convey a message: keep the strong fighters alive, while the others were free to kill and eat anyone who posed a threat. What followed was less a battle and more a one-sided massacre. Gabichi destroyed every soldier who dared approach him. Alma used her new bewitching eyes to take control of the soldiers' hearts, forcing them to attack one another at her command. Sato took advantage of the chaos, manipulating the blood on the ground to forge weapons of destruction, cutting down the remaining soldiers. Meanwhile, the commander continued to attack Gabiro, unaware that her efforts were in vain. She tried to pierce his heart with her sword, while her supporting mage warned her that they could not hold out much longer. In desperation, the commander unleashed a secret technique, summoning a giant dragon to push against Gabiro. Sei recognized the spell's immense power and danger, noting that the commander clearly knew the battle was lost but wanted to take Gabiro with her. Gabiro, however, simply sidestepped the attack, turning his back to the dragon. With a combination of shields, he repelled the dragon's force, rendering it useless as it vanished into thin air. The commander could hardly believe her eyes, while Gabiro smiled, pleased that not a single goblin had fallen and that they had easily defeated the human army, capturing valuable prisoners in the process. They returned to the village, where the elf elders arrived with food and booze to celebrate the victory, acknowledging that without the goblins, the elves might not have survived that night. Gabiro checked on the human prisoners and gave the commanding knight a thorough examination throughout the night. The next day, he contacted the elf elder, who had promised high-quality booze in exchange for valuable intelligence. Gabiro informed the elves that humans were preparing a pincer attack and would likely win if unprepared. Though concerned, the elder listened as Gabiro outlined a plan to catch the humans off guard before they could regroup with their larger army. He set up an ambush in the forest, spotting a fully armored battalion of 500 infantry and cavalry, accompanied by 100 mages. For an unprepared force, this could have spelled doom for the elves, but for Gabiro's mercenary army, it was little more than target practice. He signaled his goblins, who immediately chopped down trees to block the path and tumbled huge rocks to crush fleeing soldiers, reducing their numbers from 500 to 300 instantly. Mai's long-range squad rained hellfire on the remaining soldiers, while pitfall traps claimed anyone attempting to escape, even with dwindling numbers. The commanding knight managed to regroup and ordered the construction of a wall using rocks and dead bodies. Gabiro recognized the strategy's effectiveness, bringing the situation to a stalemate. As the knight fired magic attacks at Mike and the goblin's projectiles proved ineffective, Gabiro instructed Gabichi to advance and take command, emphasizing the need to capture the commanding officer alive for intelligence. Hand-to-hand combat erupted as Gabichi's squad moved to eliminate the remaining knights. Gabichi destroyed anyone who came in his path, alarming Gabiro that the commander might die. Gabichi slashed at the commanding knight's horse, revealing the knight's red hair. The knight merely smiled, acknowledging Gabichi's strength, and engaged him in combat. Sliding beneath Gabichi's blow, he attempted to strike from behind, but the ogre defended with precision. The duel escalated, both fighters knowing their lives depended on it. Gabiro admired the knight's skill, realizing that humans were formidable when alone, and was determined to capture him alive. Eventually, Gabichi emerged victorious, carrying the knight's limp body on his shoulders. Gabiro withdrew his troops and reported the battle's overwhelming victory to the elves. They returned to the cave, placing the prisoners in confinement while resuming daily tasks. Gob, exploring deeper into the cave, accidentally triggered a special hot spring, filling the room with scalding water. Though initially frightened, Gabiro quickly saw the opportunity to turn it into a leisure spot, building a special hot spring for the group to enjoy. After a relaxing bathing session, everyone emerged refreshed and ready for what awaited them next. By the next day, Gabiro decided to begin training the other members of his clan, including the kobolds and the remaining prisoners. He set up a real battle scenario to separate the good fighters from the bad, while also identifying those worthy of command. Gabiro didn't take part in these mock battles. He observed as a referee, gaining deeper insight into his friends and allies. He quickly realized that Mayance excelled at giving commands, making them natural generals. In contrast, Sato and Gabichi were complete numbskulls, collectively possessing less tactical sense than a plastic water bottle and entirely lacking the qualities of a good leader. Gabiro also noticed that the red-headed knight was eager to learn. After dispatching his enemies, the knight approached Gabiro, requesting a sparring match. Impressed, Gabiro agreed, immediately buffing him with protective magic to ensure he wouldn't die instantly. The match began with the knight taking the initiative, landing cheeky strikes, all of which Gabiro effortlessly blocked. Gabiro countered with a devastating combo, forcing the knight back. He kept up the relentless assault, landing punch after punch, before finishing with a terrifying axe kick that knocked the knight unconscious on a pile of rocks. Gabiro quickly healed him, only for Gabichi to challenge the knight to a sparring match as well. The knight fared much better against the Red Ogre, trading blows without being overpowered. Recognizing his skill, Gabiro removed the collar from the knight's neck, formally releasing him from his status as a prisoner. The next day, Gabiro told the red-headed girl that the knight would now serve as her teacher, and she would follow everything he taught her. Meanwhile, Gabiro took the remaining prisoners and presented them before the elves, claiming they were high-ranking officials too weak for him to retain. He then asked the elder elf about the medicine the humans had been seeking. The elf explained that it was the same miraculous liquid he had previously given to Gabiro, capable of healing any illness. While the elves had a rule against giving it to humans, nothing prevented Gabiro, a goblin who had saved the elf's daughter, from receiving it. Gabiro immediately drank the liquid, gaining new ability, such as healing through his blood. Testing it on a prisoner, he had the man drink his blood, instantly curing all injuries. Gabiro realized this could become an incredibly powerful weapon in his arsenal, preparing him for the grand battles that awaited.